All right, we are recording. Excellent. So again, today's the fifth and final part of our Heartland Success Series. It's really part of what we used to call our Business Builder program that we would teach. It initially started out as 2 half-day sessions, and then I was asked to merge that together to make it 1 half-day session. So I just made it longer, 5 hours instead of 4 hours, and then I talked a little faster. But I got a whole bunch of things here I want to cover with you today. So we are recording this. I do welcome you to jump in. I will try to watch the chat box. So if you have any questions, please throw them in the chat. I cannot watch the Q&A box as easily when I'm instructing, so please use the chat box. We do have a couple of live attendees on here. Let me show you what we're going to talk about today as we jump in. Let me share the screen first. That'd be even better. All right, we pull that up and give you a shared screen. All right, hopefully you can all see that. Let me the chat box went away again. Why does it always do that? There it is. All right, so now you can see my screen. Here's what I want to talk about today. We've got an hour to do this, and less than that already. So we have to go quickly through this. I don't want to be too brief. So again, if you have questions, that's the best thing to do is to throw one in the chat box. I try to keep those timely. But we're going to talk briefly about escalation clauses, just so you're aware of what they are. Buyer's agency agreements, why to use them, why not, should you use them, should you not. Variable rate commission. We need to go into that. That's truly a 201 topic, in my opinion. That's really advanced real estate, in my opinion. And then bundling it. We'll get to that in a minute. And similarly, inducements. Corporate relocation, I think that's important. We'll talk about why. And the ever famous, the minus fee, as I call it. And we'll get there and talk about that as much as we can. Of course, antitrust issues, so we'll be careful and cautious and stay safe when we talk about the minus fee. FSBOs and expireds, I do want to spend a few minutes on that. I think that's an important part of working with clients. Maybe it's not in advanced real estate, and I think maybe it is because I'm not sure a lot of agents, especially new agents, jump in and start calling FSBOs, for sale by owner, and expireds. So I do want to cover that for a few minutes. I've got a few slides on that, so I'll try to be brief, but I do think it's important to cover those topics. And then self-dealing, we'll talk about what that is, and similarly, again, investment property. So those two kind of go hand in hand. So that's it. We're jumping right in. All right, so you don't need to use each of these. So I had a whole list there of different items. You don't have to use each of these, and I would argue there's most of your appointments, most of your interactions with clients, you're not going to use any of these things that I'm talking about today. But again, what I think is important about this is these are little pieces. I'm calling it extra ammunition here. Maybe not a good analogy, but just a little extra silver bullet to put in your gun that you're there with a client and you got a great rapport going, you really like the person, you like what's going on, and they're just not quite ready. That doesn't always mean, and I would say arguably, it probably doesn't mean, it usually doesn't mean that they have an issue with you. It's usually a little bit of remorse of, oh my gosh, this is a huge step in our lives. We're about to sell our home and make a move, and that's a big deal, and move on. And is this the right decision? Should we be doing this now? Are our jobs safe? Is COVID a problem? All of these questions that come up. It's helping them through some of that concern, that anxiety. It's not really about whether it's you. It's not an issue with you probably. It's about, wow, should we be doing this? And so a couple of these things here, just figure out which one fits into which slot. A couple of them, are only very specific for sellers. A couple are only specific with buyers. A couple a little bit larger. Just think about when you might need them and just that extra piece to push it over the top to get the deal. Because it's most important that you get the deal. Walking out of the property and a listing appointment without getting that listing is not fun. You always second guess yourself, or at least I did, of why didn't I get that? What could I have done better? And one of the tips I gave in the buyer seminar, and probably a seller seminar too, was when I got done with an appointment, whether it was a buyer or a seller, I always stopped and I call it debriefing. I'd sit in my car for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or I'd drive home and I'd sit in the car before I even go into the house and life starts up again. Sit there and think about how did that appointment go? Make some mental notes of, wow, I struggled with this moment in that presentation. How could I have done that better? Or how could I have not gotten into it? What did I say that I should not have said? We talked about in the other session about too new for real estate. And the best way to handle being asked if you're new in real estate is to not lead them to that question. So don't talk about things that you did in your prior life. Don't talk about, oh, when I worked at the bank or when I worked at the whatever. Don't say that. Just pretend you've always been in real estate. If you don't bring it up, you're not going to drag them or bring them to the question, and they probably will never ask it. So anyway, close the tough deals. That's what this is for. All right, next one. Why is this not sliding? There we go. Next one. All right. So escalation clauses. Some brokerage firms use these frequently and routinely as a part of their buyer's package, a part of what they do in helping their buyers get a deal. Let me tell you here, and it's up on the screen. I think we've got 2 slides on it, and this is being recorded, by the way, so this will be up, 3 slides. This will be up on Heartland's YouTube page. So you can go to YouTube, find Heartland Realtor Organization. This is in our success series. This is the Real Estate 201 Advanced Technique. So these are there. I'm not going to read these to you, but I do want to go back here. So Betsy Urbance, the legal counsel, chief legal counsel at Illinois Realtors, put this together. She is not in favor of these escalation clauses. So in summary, what one is when you're working with a buyer and you write up the offer, and the offer you write up is, or in the listing side, you receive this offer, and the offer is $1,000 more than the other buyer, than the next highest offer, or $300 more than the next offer. So whatever the dollar amount is, we're just talking for educational purposes here, not suggesting what you should write these as. Betsy would suggest that these are not good to write, and there are issues with them. So she highly recommends, it's here on the screen. I'm not going to tell you what she said. It's all written down for you. I copied this from her tiny rants from the legal hotline. This was printed several years ago, still relevant today. Again, there are firms that are still using them, and you can use them, but there are issues, and that's what I'm trying to discuss with you. I'm not saying you can't, just that you need to be aware of the issues that arise with them at times. So, if you get one of these offers that is $1,000 or $300 or whatever, some dollar amount more than the next best offer, one of the issues becomes, what if you get 2 of those? You're in a multiple offer, obviously, and you get 2 of those, and they both say $3. Let's just use an easy number, $3 more than the next best offer. Well, if you have 2 of those, what is the final price then? Is it $3 and $3 and $3 and $3, and where does it stop? It doesn't then, right? Or is it just $3 and now you have a tie and they both get the house? Well, you can't sell 2 people the same house. That doesn't work well. So there are issues with it. The other side becomes, what is their pre-qualification or their pre-approval letter say they're qualified for? So does it say up to $3 more than the next highest offer? No, of course not. It's going to have a dollar amount. There needs to be a set dollar. There needs to be a number. And oftentimes, or I should say in some cases, the buyer's agent will write in there a maximum dollar amount, $3 more than the next best offer up to $103 or something like that, so that you can know what the cap is. Well, then isn't the offer really $103? So there becomes an issue here as to what the highest dollar really is, what the level is, where does it stop? And then the other side is the appraisal issue. So these escalation clauses can, when in certain situations, end up in a bidding war. And that's not unlike in a multiple offer where there's a dollar amount. You can still get into a bidding war, but the appraisal still becomes an issue. So we're worried about them. We're concerned with them. They become difficult and cumbersome. So Betsy Urbance, Illinois Realtors, does not like them and encourages brokerages not to use them. But you need to be aware that they exist, and that's what this is. So that's what I'm telling with you here. So a couple more slides on that. One is a buyer want to close, financing terms, if any. There's other issues with this. So she goes through the whole thing. Again, you can look online and pull this slides up. Buyer agency agreement. So first, what is a buyer's agency agreement? Or maybe even skipping down here to Illinois Realtors. Where do you find the form? Illinois Realtors has this form, Form 338 or 338A. So 338 includes dual agency discussion. 338A does not have dual agency. So if you're being a dual agent and you want a buyer agency agreement, 338. If you want a buyer agency agreement without dual agency, then it's 338A. So just so you know where it's at. And then specifically look at section 7, section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all include information, and it's all valuable. Who's the brokerage firm, who's the designated agent, who's the buyer that you're working with, what areas are they going to move to, those kinds of things. And then you get down to section 7, which is obviously critical, especially for people who like to get paid, is what's your compensation? So we're going to fill that in. We're going to reference this in a later conversation as well. But on the buyer's agency agreement is where you would fill in what your dollar amount is that you're looking to work for. On the form that Illinois Realtors has, it has a percentage in there. You can also, instead of using percentage, put a dollar amount. If you want to say, I need to make $4,000 in this deal, then that's fine. Or if you want to put in there, you know, X percent dollar amount, that works as well. X percent of the sales price, that works as well. So either way it can be worked. Section 7 is a compensation. So what does it do? Does it guarantee that you get paid if your buyer buys a property? Not really. So yes, sort of. What I would argue is it gives you the ability to sue the client for a commission. Ouch. So last week we talked about a decision-making filter. If it's in the headlines of a newspaper, what does it look like? You put that in the headlines of a newspaper, it's pretty ugly. Brokerage firm sues client for commission. Ouch, right? Probably not the headline you want, but that's what this form gives the brokerage firm the right to do, is to sue the client for commission if they don't get paid otherwise. I'm not saying don't use these. In fact, I would tell you, I probably wouldn't put a buyer in my car or show a single buyer a property without having a buyer agency agreement. I think they're that valuable. But what they do beyond that gives you the right to sue the client, what I think it really does is that it's a loyalty agreement. It tells them, the client, that I'm going to give you real estate services 24/7, 7 days a week, 365, almost to that degree. I mean, it's almost day, night, every day, no matter what holiday it is, almost. So it's a loyalty agreement. You have to provide them all the real estate services. And I teach new members, last week we had orientation, I teach new members, they should take a day off. They should have a day off. That's perfectly acceptable. But when you have a buyer agency agreement, and I'd argue even without it, you have an obligation, a duty to your client. Remember that? So you have a duty to your client to perform their services for them, help provide them those real estate services. Again, regardless of time of day and all that. So how do you handle that? Do you get a teammate? Do you have a member of your staff? Do you know, a team in the office that you work with, another agent? How do you handle that? And that's how you'd work through that. And we discussed that last week as well. So you need to find out if your firm uses them or not. Some firms don't want to use buyer agency agreements. Some firms require buyer agency agreements. So you need to make sure you know where they stand with that. If one, then all. Key, critical. I can't harp on this enough. I don't have enough time to harp on this today, but if you provide this to one, you must provide this to all. So if you're working with any buyers at all, you must present this to all of them. You can't pick and choose which buyers you're going to work with and offer them a buyer agency agreement. It's you offer to everybody or you offer to nobody. There's no middle ground here. Discrimination is a major concern with this form, as is much of the things that you do. But make sure that if you're offering it to one, anyone, that you're offering it to all. Very critical. So what I would tell you in this form is if you are unfamiliar with it, if you want to start using it, you want to get familiar with it, go get the form. Again, it's illinoisrealtors.org. You'd look under, once you sign in there with your ID, then you'd look in the legal section. There's a little tab that says legal, then it says forms, then scroll down to, I don't remember, I think it's the buyer section. Actually, it's not, it's agency section. It's probably third or fourth section down. Under agency, it is one of the top forms in that section. So it's not terribly difficult to find, form 338 or 338A. I would go get it, print it off, look at it, get familiar with it, take copies of it, save copies of it so you know where to use it and how to use it. And then the important part, maybe the most important part, in my opinion, what are you going to say to your client to have them sign this form? It's not difficult to get someone to sign one of these forms. I was 24 years old buying my first property. I wasn't a real estate agent yet. I got my license the next year. I had a real estate agent that wanted to use one with me. She discussed it with me. I had no problem with it. I simply said to her, look, I'm looking to move to Wakanda or Vernon Hills. You know Wakanda really well. I'll sign this for you all day long for Wakanda. Let's write on there Wakanda. But properties in Vernon Hills, maybe we don't cover that since you don't know that area. You may not want to drive that area. She said, fine, no problem. So we signed it for Wakanda. I bought a property in Vernon Hills. Did she get paid? She did. You know why? Because I still used her. It was a loyalty thing. I felt a loyalty to her. I called her up and said, hey, there's property in Vernon Hills. I'd like to go see a couple days. She said, great, let's go look at them. I ended up buying one. The first day she showed me properties in Vernon Hills. We had looked at some in Wakanda. First day in Vernon Hills, I bought one from her. She was pleased. I was pleased. Everything worked well. So my point on this is learn what to say. Get your script. I know that's a dirty word. Your conversation. Know how you're going to present this form to your clients. Floyd Wickman's a national trainer. He's been around a long time. So he taught me a long time ago. He taught me, this is what he said. He said, you never sell with blah, blah, what you can sell with blah. It took me a little while to figure that out. What he's saying is don't overthink it. Don't overpresent it. Say what you need to say about it. Explain the form. Hand them the pen, and then let them sign it and move on, or have that quick conversation if they have questions, whatever, and move on. If they don't want to sign it, that's okay too. They don't have to sign the form. You have the obligation, as we just talked about, to talk with them, to present that to them. They don't have to sign it, and if they don't sign it, you can still work with them. But now you've lost a little bit of that ability to sue them for a commission. You've lost that, I'll call it a loyalty factor, that they're going to work with you. Every time I talk about this, I think of one guy. I showed him lots of property, he and his family, and it was on Sundays, and I preferred to have Sundays off, but so lots of stuff on Sundays. He ended up buying new construction through another real estate agent. Drives me crazy. I should have had him sign a buyer agency agreement. I talked with him about it. He didn't want to do it. I should have taken that. There were enough little red flags. I should have realized, hey, this guy's probably two-timing me with another real estate agent, which he was. Not his fault, not the other agent's fault, my fault. I blew it. But anyway, never sell with blah, blah, what you can sell with blah. So think about what you're going to say, learn what you're going to say, and then get good at it. Have that conversation. All right, variable rate commission. This is my favorite one. This is truly, in my opinion, one of those things where most agents don't understand it, don't know what a variable rate commission is, don't know how to utilize it. And I mean that specifically. There's a way to utilize this option that I think can push sellers over the top to say, yes, I'm going to list with you today, when you're on that fence of, are they going to list with you or not? So first, what is a variable rate commission? It is not a situation when you take a 60-40. So making up numbers just for educational purposes. I'm not suggesting what you charge. That's something you need to talk about at your brokerage firm. I'm just going to talk with you here a couple of figures and facts just for educational purposes. We're really clear. This is antitrust issues. All right. So I'm not recommending at all what any real estate agent should be charging. Got it. Good. All right. So you're taking it, we'll make the numbers easier, and we'll make them inflated so that they're almost silly. So let's say a 10% commission rate. So again, just using a wacky number just to throw it out of proportion so that no one gets any wrong ideas that we're suggesting this. So 10% commission rate. A variable rate commission is not when you keep 60% and offer the buyer's agent 40%, or you keep 55% and offer 45%. Anything other than 50-50. That's not a variable rate. Just because a lot of real estate firms and brokerages and agents do a 50-50 split where we're taking X percent, we're offering half out as the buyer's co-op, just because that might be something that happens frequently, that doesn't make it a variable when you change that. So a variable rate commission is different. It's when you're with the seller and you say to the seller, hey, 10% is our normal commission rate. I want to make you a deal. How about this? If I'm the agent that ends up selling your property, so dual agency, which we just talked about, pretend. So dual agency, we just talked about that. If I'm the agent that ends up bringing the buyer through dual agency, our firm is going to cut you a break on the commission. So instead of charging you 10% total commission, because we're going to get both halves of it, we're willing to negotiate that down to 9 3/4, 9.5, whatever number you want. But I want to be really clear. I want to make sure everybody in this call realizes, I don't think you need to give away your commissions. In fact, I would firmly argue you don't need to give away your commissions to your clients. You should not be doing that. I rarely did that. There were a couple of cases where I offered variable rate commission. There were a couple of times when I kicked in a little tiny something here and there to help sweeten the pot to make sure I got the deal. I felt at those moments it was worth that little concession to get the deal than to walk out of there without the deal and potentially have somebody else take it and I get nothing. So sweeten the pot a little bit, offer a little something, a little enticement, a little inducement, which is our next slide, just a moment here, well, a couple slides. So variable rate commission. If I'm the dual agent, and again, you have to explain this to them in layman's terms, not in technical terms like we've got. So if I'm the dual agent in the deal, and I'm representing both the buyer and you, the seller, then we're willing to negotiate the commission down a little bit for you. But I would also argue that if you're going to say that, and what I always said was, I would be fair with my clients to explain to them, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, please understand, I don't work with a lot of buyers. So the likelihood of me selling your home is small, but it does exist. I have sold my own properties. I have been a dual agent. Of course, as we just talked about, with informed consent. So the buyers are very much aware and the seller, you'll be very much aware. And you know, those things that we have to do, as we just talked about what dual agency means. So you're very clear, you're very open. Don't give them a false pretense that you're likely to be the one to bring the buyer, unless of course you truly believe that you are. You cannot ethically, Code of Ethics does not allow you to lie to your client. So you have to present a true picture. If you are likely to be the one to bring a buyer to it, then you could say that. I sold a lot of Vernon Hills condominiums. So it might be true back in those days that if I had the listing, there's a decent chance I might have a buyer for it. So there's a possibility, and I don't want to say a likelihood, but a reasonable possibility that I could bring the buyer for that property. But I didn't do a lot of single family homes in Grosse Pointe Village. So if I had listed a property there, I would not proclaim to the seller that it's likely I'm going to bring the buyer to you. I will be very clear of this situation exists, we'll toss you that. In fact, how about this variable rate commission? How about if any agent from my office brings the buyer, since our office is right down the street, and any of our agents bring the buyer and we close the deal, we'll give you that same discount. A different way, a little different spin on it. So you go from yourself to the firm, of course. My disclaimer, my little asterisk. Make sure that you've cleared this with your managing broker. Any of these things here, any of these nuances, any of these ideas, you need to make sure they're all cleared with your managing broker. I already talked with the buyer's agency agreement. Talk to your managing broker, find out what's going on in your office, what your office policies are. That's for this entire presentation today. These are great, cool ideas that maybe you hadn't thought of before or forgotten. Great ideas, but make sure that your managing broker allows you to do them. All right, so I think I've covered that. I don't see any questions there. I'm gonna move on to the next one. If you guys have questions, throw them in the chat room, I'll come back. Bundle it. So similarly, talking to a tough seller, I don't mean that they're tough, I mean that you're not sure you're getting the deal, just like I started off this presentation with. You know, sometimes they're just anxious and concerned and got that remorse of, gosh, do we really wanna do this? It's not that they're tough, it's just they're not quite sure they're ready to go on. So when you're in that situation, you wanna push them over. How about this one? Tell you what, let's bundle this. And I would say that. I mean, that's the exact words I'd use. I watched that American Pickers show where these guys go out and buy antiques and then resell them. They're always bundling the deals. That's a great, and they love that. That's one of the techniques they use. You can use that. Tell you what, let's bundle this. If you both sell your property and buy with me as well, we can cut you a deal. And again, same caveat. Has your managing broker allowed you to do this? So instead of 10% commission, you know, 10% here and I'll be getting a commission on their side, we can cut your deal on your home on your seller side down by 1/4%. See that 1/4%? It's sort of small. I mean, it's not nothing, but it's a minuscule amount in the grand scope of things. Would you happily give up 1/4% to get both sides? I would have back in my day. I'm not telling you what to do, but it's something to think about. And I'm not saying it has to be 1/4%, you know, whatever it might be. You can say $300, you can say $2. It can be anything you want to do that. So again, that's bundling it, lower commission, but again, slightly. I really am firmly in the camp of you should not be giving away your commissions. So next slide, same kind of a topic. Inducements are very similar. So let's bundle this. How about this? If you're gonna sell your property with me here and buy a new property with me, I'll pay for your attorney fees for the deal. Or I'll pay for your home inspection fee on the new property. Or I'll pay for the appraisal fee or the locksmith to get the locks changed. You can give them cash as well. Yes, you can give them cash. Let me go back now. Everyone's going RESPA, Real Estate Settlements and Procedures Act. It's not a RESPA violation. This inducement, this gift, this whatever you want to call it, I don't like the word kickback. Kickback is not what this is. So I would not say kickback. This inducement is to one of the parties to the contract, it is legal. I'm not an attorney, but I do know that this is legal. So if you have questions, certainly take it to an attorney to get verified. And if the attorney has questions, have them contact me. I can put them in touch with Betsy Urbans, Eleanor Realtors, who is legal counsel, and we can get that resolved. So I'm not giving you legal advice, but I would tell you that my 25 years of real estate experience, I've got a master's degree in real estate and a whole bunch of other criteria, this is acceptable. Parties to the contract, that means a buyer or a seller, can receive inducements as encouragement for them to work with you. So you can say, you buy your home with me, I'll give you $1,000 back. Absolutely. You buy a home with me, and like I said, attorney's fees, home inspection, appraisal costs, locksmith. I love the locksmith idea. They hadn't thought about changing locks, perhaps. Yeah, and those are expensive. So, depending on how many locks you have, it can be $300, $400. What you can't do, so the first line here, only parties to the contract, not referral fees. So unlicensed people who give you referral cannot get referral fees. There's where RESPA kicks in. So your neighbor gives you a lead for a deal, that deal comes together and you sell or buy their property and help them and you get a commission. You can't go back to your unlicensed neighbor and say, hey, thanks so much, that was great, I got a commission, here's $500, here's a new barbecue grill, here, I'm gonna shovel your sidewalk for you for that. Nothing of value can be given to your neighbor, to anyone who's unlicensed, for a referral fee. Good? Good. All right, only if needed, offer to help them, like bundling it. All right, very good. Looking for questions, I don't see any yet. Good deal. Let me jump in here real quick. All right, next slide. Oops, I click back. All right, relocation. So I know that corporate relocation packages are coming back. So a few firms, especially larger firms, are finding it more challenging to find help that meets their criteria. I think that what I'm hearing, and I've got a couple friends in HR, corporate HR, are saying that they're looking, that corporations are looking very specialized backgrounds, a very specialized niche of people for their jobs. For a little while, they got a little more broad that, hey, well, you worked in that kind of market, we can take you. It's now, I need someone who does exactly this for this job. So with that, a lot of these relocation, these corporations are offering relocation packages. Relocation packages, they were huge back in the 1990s when I was helping people buy and sell homes. So what I would do is I'd go on a listing appointment, and one of the first words, and frankly, you already knew this before you got there, but you would ask them, is this a corporate relocation? They would say yes or no. But when they said yes, then you respond back with, can I see the corporate, can I see those papers, please? Or better yet, when you're scheduling the appointment, that's when you would really ask them, is this a corporate relocation? Because they're probably going to say to you, before you even ask, they're probably going to say, oh yeah, I'm looking to get relocated, I'm moving to California, and my company's going to relocate me. Ding, 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 right? Then that triggers you to say to them on the phone, oh great, it's a relocation package. Excellent, you have a package for that, I assume? You do, great. Can you have those papers ready for me when I get over there tomorrow night at 2 o'clock to, for this listing appointment? Great, have the papers. I just want to take a quick look at them to know what the package includes, to make sure we're utilizing all of the things that we can to help you get your home sold as quickly as we can. Does that sound good? All right. Sound good? Fair enough. Do you guys remember that last week? The little hooks. Hook them, hook them, hook them. All right, corporate relocations are coming back. Always ask if it's relocation. If you hear the little buzzwords, then ask them, oh, is this a corporate relocation? Oh, it is. Great, do you have a relocation package that they've offered you to relocate your home? Oh, you do, great, just have the paperwork for me. Then when you get there, and I was very familiar with what those packages looked like back then, I would get I knew it was on page 3, but you get the paperwork, it comes to you, and you're like, oh, and you flip through, like, oh, what page? Oh, interesting, okay. Oh, all right, interesting, okay, great. They're willing to pay up to, and let's make up a number again, just for fun, 8% commission. Okay, well here, they're willing to pay up to 8%. We don't, so what I would say, and that was true back then, it was 8%. We don't need to go right there right now. If we have trouble selling your home, then we can come back and talk about this and see if there's something more that we can do, increasing commission to the buyer side to see if we can encourage some activity to come through the property. But right now, we don't need to go there. Let's go with whatever your commission rate is, or commission plus a little bit. So ask to see the paperwork. What will they pay? Because this is not coming out of your seller's pocket, probably. You don't want to gouge, so you need to earn it. That's on the screen here for you. You need to justify your commission, and that's true anywhere. You can't just go in and ask for 45% of the listing price as a commission because the seller is, not knowledgeable enough to say yes. You have to be able to justify your value. So what I would do is I'd go through my marketing program. Here's the marketing program. Here's what we're going to do over the next 120 days. Here's what we're going to do, and here's how we're going to do it all. But you see, with you, you're relocation. So because of that, and you need to get to California quickly. When do you start the new job? Oh, you've already started it. You're moving out there. Your family's going to follow you. Got it. You need to get your family out there quick, right? See the head nod like we did last week. Head nod? Yeah. You need to get your family out there quick, right? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take that entire marketing program, we're going to compact it, we're going to smush it all together a little bit faster than we normally would. So with that, we're going to need to charge a slightly increased commission rate. So your companies want to pay up to 8%. I'm making up the number. Instead of our normal 6%, we're going to go to 7%. We're going to offer a little inducement on the other side to increase buyer activity. We're going to keep a little extra on the marketing side to make sure that we can do the marketing things we need to do to get this property sold quickly. How does that sound? Is that good? Fair enough?
Yeah.
What do you think? Ready to go?
Yeah.
Folks, any one of those questions, just keep hooking them. Not all of them at once like I just did. All right, so that's relocation in a nutshell. You absolutely need to be using that and working relocations as they come in. I know they're not on every property, and I'd argue they're probably not even on 10% of your properties right now on your listing sides. Maybe they're 120, 120th. All right, the minus fee. Let's discuss that briefly. Again, antitrust, go through that whole thing, but we have to be careful about conversations about commission. But I constantly, very commonly get asked, what is this minus fee? When I look in the MLS, there's an X% minus some dollar amount. Hey, Jim, what is this minus fee? So what it is not is where it started from. What it used to be, it did used to be, a long time ago when MLSs were first born, if you will, when associations started to get together computers and put everything in the computer, brokerage firms had to send over their listing input sheets to the Realtor Association. Then we at the association would enter them, and there was a fee for this. And it was, I forget, $19.95 or something for it. And so the listing brokerage firm was charged per listing for the association to enter the data into the computer system so that everybody have access to it. Then that went away. The fee increased a little bit and went to $25 or something. Then that all went away when we started, not even that long ago, 20-something years ago, to have brokerages and listing agents enter their own data. So once firms started to enter their own data and the associations were no longer doing it, the fee went away. Well, just because the fee went away didn't mean the commission went away. So what happened when the associations were charging the fee, some brokerage firms, some listing agents would say, hey, there's a fee to have the association enter it. I don't want to eat that $20. I'm going to have the buyer's agent eat that $20 instead of it coming out of my side, it's going to come out of their side. So X% minus $20 back in the old days. That's what it kind of initially started as. So there was a rational side for why the fee existed. But then, as I said, things changed, the fee went away, but some firms didn't take the fee away. So if someone should say to you, oh, that's an MLS listing fee, they've said something, frankly, wrong. That is not true. That's inaccurate. If you were to question, well, why is there a minus here, whatever the dollar amount is, and they said to you, that's the brokerage fee we're offering to compensate agents who bring buyers in, that's an acceptable answer. But they shouldn't make it up of, oh, this is a fee to cover X, Y, or Z, or whatever else. That's not a good answer. The answer should be, this is the fee that we've discussed with our seller about offering to brokerages and agents to bring their buyers through our property. That's the true answer. That's what it should always be. I know that's not always what you hear, and those other answers are probably wrong. I haven't heard them all, and I'm not an attorney, so I caution that with a huge it depends kind of answer. So what if you don't like it? So is it allowed? So is a minus fee allowed? Yes, maybe, sort of, as my slide says. So absolutely the answer is yes. The minus portion, X% minus some dollar amount is absolutely legal. Again, if they say it's because of the MLS input fee, well, no, it's not. So that part becomes the maybe and sort of part. So is it allowed? Yes. So what if you don't like the dollar amount? I had a Chicago agent, this is a couple years ago, a friend of mine in Chicago was selling property. He sold a piece of vacant land, and apparently there was some soil contamination and there were some issues with the property, but his buyer wanted it anyway. He was doing it as a favor to his friend to help the buyer buy it. It turned out that after the minus fee, he was actually going to owe $50. Yeah, the buyer's agent was have to pay $50. So he said, it's for my friend. There wasn't a whole lot of work involved on my end. I don't have a problem with that. But he called the listing agent and said, you know, I don't have a problem, blah, 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 but I'm not going to bring you 50 bucks. I don't mind getting paid nothing, but I'm not going to pay you to sell your property. And apparently the listing agent said, okay, fair enough. We'll take care of that and we'll make it zero. And they signed off on it and all that. So next point here. What if you don't like the commission that's being offered to you? You do have a couple of options. So let's start the buyer agency agreement. Back to section 7 in the buyer agency agreement. If, sorry, I gotta take care of this. All right, so if section 7 says there's a dollar amount in there, you put in, you know, $3 and a chicken is what you require in order for payment. I have chickens. And the listing office is offering at a home $2 and a chicken, so it doesn't quite meet what you're looking for. You do have options. The first option is always to go back to your buyer client and say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, whatever. We have a property that's in the MLS, just came on the market. It looks great, it meets all your criteria. But what I need to know from you, but you need to know is that they're not offering enough commission to cover what we've agreed to in the buyer agency agreement. So there's a couple of things that could happen. One is you could pay me that difference yourselves at closing or outside of closing. Either way can work. It should be on the closing pages, of course. That's one option. Second option is, with your permission, I can go back to the listing agent and ask them to talk to the seller about renegotiating that commission and changing it to make sure we cover that. Or of course, the third option, and I'm not a fan of this option, is you can just suck it up and take the $2 and the chicken instead of the $3 and the chicken. So you could bite the bullet and take the reduction. I'm not a fan of that. I don't think you should reduce your commissions. You should have a reasonable dollar amount for what you do. You guys do enough what I call community service in this world, in this business, that you don't need to be giving away your services any more than you have to. So buyer agency agreement, $3 and chicken, and you know, you have to have a conversation with your client. And I would say you should do this. You should do this. Best practices would suggest that when you're signing the buyer agency agreement, you have a conversation with your buyer at that point to say, all right, I want $3 in a chicken. That's our minimum dollar amount. What would you like me to do if there's a property that comes on the market that has a commission less than this? One of the options is, of course, and the one that I favor, and I'm just telling you how I would have done it, is I'll make you aware of the property and tell you what the difference is, then we can address how to go from there. Or secondly, I cannot tell you about those properties, which I'm not a fan of that route. I think you should know about all the properties that meet your criteria, and we can negotiate from that point. So what would you like me to do? Tell you about the properties, tell you what the difference is in the commission, and negotiate from that point? You see my head shaking because I want them to say yes, because that's in their best interest. That's in their best interest, not talking about my best interest, theirs. So shake your head with them like, that's what you want me to do, right? And as you do that, and it's in their best interest, that's a good thing to do. You shouldn't be convincing them to do something that's not in their best interest. I want to be clear on that. All right. If you do renegotiate with the listing agent and the listing agent says, oh yeah, that's fine, we'll give you $3 in the chicken, then you need to get that in writing. So we have a commission agreement. Heartland has one on Heartland's website, so you can go there and pull that off. If you have trouble finding that, let us know. Staff can help you with that. So get the commission agreement signed by the listing agent's brokerage firm's designated realtor. It's not enough. It's not authorized by the listing agent to negotiate that. You need the DR of the firm to sign off on that. I want to be really clear. You want the managing broker, the principal, the designated realtor, someone of authority to sign off on this, that you're now getting $3 in chicken versus $2 in chicken. All right. Can we get rid of the minus fee? No, is the firm, simple, easy answer. We can't get rid of it. If, however, firms decide they no longer want to do that, if there's enough pushback, if there's whatever, and they decide to get rid of it, independent business decisions by brokerage firms could make it go away, but it is illegal, improper, immoral, wrong for firms to get together, and I want to say illegal like 3 more times, illegal for firms to get together and discuss these fees and commissions. Cannot do it. You can look in the MLS to see what others are offering and look at what the marketplace has, and then make independent business decisions as to what your firm will do, independent business decisions as to what your firm will do. You may not at all ever work with your competition to determine what commission rates you will be offering to buyer's agents or what you're charging your clients. You must always have independent business decisions. Yes, I purposely beat the heck out of that. All right, next slide, I think, if we can click. All right, FSBOs and expires. Kind of briefly on this one, I got a couple slides here. For sale by owners. I often call those help wanted signs because frankly, they need help. They just don't often realize they need help. But anyway, for sale by owners and expireds. Don't forget the do not call.gov list. This is really, for cold calling too, do not call.gov. So if there's phone numbers on that list, you may not call them. There is a piece where it says if you had a pre-existing business relationship with that homeowner, that property owner, that you can contact them. Let me be clear. If their property had been listed by ABC and you work for XYZ, you are not part of their business relationship. So they could contact that seller again within the 18-month period, but you cannot utilize their business relationship to contact them. So that is not, it does not preclude them from the do not call for you. It would allow that previous listing agent to contact them. So do not call.gov is where people would go to sign up their own phone numbers to be blacklisted, if you will, so they can't be called. If you are interested in finding for cold calling especially, here's the website, telemarketing.donotcall.gov is where you would get a list of phone numbers of people that you can call. And of course, it's already cross-matched with the do not call list, so those are good. Also, I'm not sure it's on the screen, your firm has a requirement, all firms have a requirement that if you call somebody who's not listed on the do not call list, so it's okay for you to call them, and now when you're on the phone with them, they say, please do not call me again, or something to the effect of, put me on your do not call list, then you have to have your own company separate do not call list for the company, the firm. I don't care how many offices you have. If your firm has 45 offices and one of those gets it on there, the entire firm has to blacklist that number. So that's all we're covering there. Do you have a buyer for the for sale by owner? Do you have an buyer for the expired? It makes it much easier. So what I'd suggest, if you see a for sale by owner, if you know of an expired listing, it's in a neighborhood that you have a personal buyer for, great. Then you might want to call them up if they're not on the do not call list. Hey, it's Jim Heiser with XYZ here in Crystal Lake. I've got a buyer that might be looking for a property in Plymouth Farm subdivision. I see you've got your property listed there, or you did before. I'm just wondering, are you for sale by owner? Are you co-oping with other agents? They normally know what that means, co-oping. If they don't, then you can explain it to them, but just say co-oping to cut it shorter. Are you co-oping with agents? I do have a buyer who might like to see your property. Now you have to be serious, you have to be honest. I said that earlier, you cannot lie. So if you don't have a buyer, then you need to change your script. And then maybe at your next office meeting, you could say, hey, other agents in my office, does anybody have a buyer looking in the Plymouth Farm subdivision? Oh, you do, great. What model are they looking for? Oh, the Aspen, okay, great. I've got a lead on an Aspen. Let me give them a call and see if I can hook you up. Then you can make the call. Hey, yeah, I've got an agent in my office, a buyer looking for an Aspen model. I think you've got the Aspen, right? Great. Is that something you'd work with us on? And then have that conversation. So ask agents, if no, how will you market to them? So how about an expired or for sale by owner, either one. Send them a letter. What would it say? Can you call them? And what would that say? So think about your script, people are afraid. So let me back myself up. Most agents are afraid to have these conversations. I'm not kidding you. Wow, that blows me away. These people, these sellers, FSBOs or expireds are ripe. You know they want to sell their property. This is different than true cold calling where you're just going down a list. And I used to cold call. I would much prefer to call for sale by owners and expireds. Yeah, you have to have a little bit thicker skin. Yeah, they can be a little more rough because they do get a couple of phone calls, but they're not getting overwhelmed. Most agents are not calling FSBOs and expireds. So you should be one who does, in my opinion. If I were a managing broker, I'd work with you on that. I think I'm going to slide, right? So if for me, I'd send them a letter first and then call them the day they got it, assume the delivery day. Hey, it's Jim Heiser with XYZ. I hope you received my letter with recent market updates. I would absolutely send them market updates. The caveat with market updates, what you need to be concerned about is when you send them that, make sure that your list doesn't suggest, doesn't give the perception of, you and your firm represented all of these sales, unless of course you and your firm did represent all these sales, but that's not what you're looking for. You want to get an update for that entire subdivision or that street or whatever is pertinent to that listing, right, that home. So make sure it's clear, because otherwise it's an ethical issue if it could be perceived that you are suggesting your company did that, all those deals, and it wasn't all by you. So, all right, backing that out. Hope to receive my letter with recent market updates for you. I'm just following up to see if I can be of any help to you. As a local real estate professional, my office frequently has buyers looking for homes like yours in the Plymouth Farm subdivision. Say the name of the subdivision so they know you're not just randomly calling people and happen to hit one, that you know exactly where they're at. And by the way, I think you've got the Aspen model. It looked like you did. It looked like you had that third window up in the backside or whatever makes the Aspen model, right? Let them know, look, I know what I'm talking about. I'm here to really get some credibility. I'd love a chance to meet with you and see your home. When would be a good time to get together? So Floyd Wickman, one of his things is nail them down. When would be a good time to get together? When they say, oh, you know, I'm too busy, whatever else. Well, I've got a few minutes free tonight at 4 o'clock. Would that be good? Or tomorrow at 2 o'clock be better? Now, a couple things. I'm going to end up being over on time here, but I think it's important. So if they come back to you and say, well, tomorrow at 2, I'm going to be at the office working, or I'm not around tomorrow, you might come back and say, oh, that's intriguing, because we have found as real estate agents that most of our clients, many of our clients, want to see properties during the middle of the day now. They're coming in their lunch hours, or they start later. How are you accommodating those afternoon showings if you're at work all the time? And don't be a smart aleck about it. Just ask them legitimately, put that concern to them. Like, how are you dealing with that? Is there something I can do to help you out? How, you know, what can we do? How can we assist you? They'll probably say no, that they have limited time, no good. Oh, really? Sounds like you're busy, so here's where we're at. I'm wondering if with your busy schedule, how you're, so I've already covered that. Would you have 10 minutes tomorrow night for me to stop by and see your house? Again, no, no. Now here's what they may also say. I want to make sure I wasn't stealing. All right, so they may also say, well, what's your commission rate? So we covered this last week as well. I'm just going to cover it briefly here, but you should go back and watch last week's, or 2 weeks ago, seller's presentation. If they come back with any questions at all, here's the key. You do not give your listing presentation over the phone. You must be eyeball to eyeball with them to do a listing presentation, in my opinion. So I don't know. I haven't seen your house yet. When's a good time for me to get together? Well, I don't know. How long is your listing agreement for? You know, it's tough for me to give that information out over the phone. I really need to see your home to know how it compares against other homes like yours in the neighborhood. You know, there's a couple of other Aspen models on the market right now. I need to see how yours compares with it. I haven't seen yours yet. I have seen those other two. So I'd love to come by, see your property. You said 2 o'clock tomorrow is not good. Would 6 o'clock be better? I do have an appointment, an opening in my schedule at 6 o'clock. Would that be better? Don't say tomorrow night. Too vague, too open, too general. 6 o'clock. Nail them down specifically, my opinion. All right, I don't need an agent. I know my home better than any other real estate. And then you can come back, and this is from Sherry Alguire from the Business Coach. So I'm borrowing from her information here with credit, of course. I'm sure that's true, but knowing your competition can give you a huge advantage. I'll be in the neighborhood previewing homes that compare to yours. Would you like to join me? Also, do you have any other selling concerns I can assist you with? That's awesome. Right? You need to go see that other Aspen model yourself anyway. So why don't you say to them, hey, I need to go see this other Aspen model. I haven't been to it yet. Would you like to come with me and to check out your competition? You can do that. That's not a problem. How about this one? I want to keep the price the same as the last listing when I had it before. So it expired, right? Or, you know, FSBO now, it was expired. Have you received any offers on your home? If so, how many? See, let me tell you why that number's so low. It doesn't matter what they say. They could say 7. I had 7 offers on it. And let me tell you this. If they said they had 7 offers on it, now the problem isn't their house. The problem is probably them, right? Just saying. So now you got to be careful. You got to figure out what their problem is, what's going on. Are they asking too much? Were they really lowball offers? Where's the problem? They've gotten the activity. They've gotten the offers. What's really going on here? So how many? They're probably going to give you a 0, right? Let me tell you why that number is so low. People shop for homes by comparison and for 90 days. The buyers have compared your home to other homes out there from $150,000 to $175,000 and didn't like yours enough to make you an offer. What we need to do is get you out of the price range that you can't compete in and get you into a range, say from $140,000 to $160,000, where you can compete and that you'll look great by comparison. You know, it really doesn't matter where the offers start. All that matters is where they finish. Your job is to price the home attractively enough so that sales associates bring their clients to show, and my job is to negotiate a price that is acceptable to you, and it's usually, I wouldn't say the last line here, usually that is acceptable to you. What you might add, what I would change in that last line, and this is Tom Ferry, founder of Tom Ferry, your coach, so give him his credit. What I would change in there is I'd say, you know, statistics do show, and this is true, statistics do show that when a for sale by owner lists their property with an agent, the for sale by owner ends up with more money in their pocket than they would have had they gone on their own. So here's the reason. So if they say, well, how is that even possible? The reason is because the for sale by owner puts the property in the market, they've already discounted their price a little bit to try to encourage people to come see it, right? So they've discounted it. What happens if the buyer comes by? Now the buyer's gonna discount it too, because they see for sale by owner, it's like, great, we can get a deal just as well. We're gonna also negotiate. So by the time the for sale by owner, who probably only has one offer on his table, only one nibble, he wants to make sure he can set the hook and catch that fish that's nibbling, right? They're gonna negotiate again. They're gonna end up with less money, having to do all the work themselves than if they'd hired an agent, done less of the work, the agent doing the work, they'd end up with more money in their pocket. So explain that to them. You see how confident I am when I'm giving this presentation? That's what you need to do. And I haven't done this for 25 years. So you need to just have the confidence, have that behind you, that knowledge, that belief, and it's true, of course. All right. Expireds aren't much different, except that they've already had a bad experience with another agent. You need to find out what did not work for them. Keep in mind, sometimes they are the problems I talked about. Nearly always a property doesn't sell due to pricing issues, of course. That's typically the problem. May have been an agent trying to buy the listing. What does that mean? That means the property is really worth, the market value is really worth $140,000, but the listing agent that came in, I was going to say something maybe derogatory, didn't do their job as well as they could have, let's go there, and priced it too high. So even though the property's worth really market value is $140, maybe they took the listing for $160. Maybe the seller insisted and the agent didn't know how to have that conversation, wasn't confident in what they were doing, didn't talk to the seller about why they really need to market the property where the property belongs, like we just covered, priced it too high. Well, if at $160, $140,000 property is going to sit in the market and going to sit there a long time and probably never get an offer, right? We covered 2 weeks ago the sheets and how to go through some of those objections. Go back and take a look at those through the seller seminar. Most expirers will tell you they're going to take a break and not relist for a little while. That's true. So don't be afraid to call an expired listing from 30 or 60 days ago, because they've often not been contacted, or they were initially bombarded with phone calls right after it expired. So there were a few phone calls they received then, but nobody since. So if you can get the data from older expired somehow, contact them 30 to 60 days. They still want to sell, I would argue. Most of them still want to sell. There was a reason they put it on the market. Maybe that changed, maybe because, whatever, they're no longer interested in selling, that's fine. But majority of them, I would argue, and I don't have facts on this, but I'd argue the majority of them still want to sell their property. All right, one agent called to ask a 2-question survey. I'm not a huge fan of this one. You can take a look at it. Ask any questions they ask you. So back to the Floyd Wickman thing. It's a 2-minute video. We're skipping it because I'm already behind and I've got more slides to go. Why didn't you sell when it was on the market with the other agent? Because they might ask you that question. Simple. Anything they ask you, this is Floyd, so I'm just copying what Floyd said. Gee, I don't know. I haven't seen your house yet. Let's get together. So, gee, I don't know. I haven't seen your house yet. Let's get together. This is what Floyd does. He does all of the things. So it doesn't matter what they say to you. What's your commission rate? How long is your contract? Do you have a buyer for it? Why didn't you sell it when it was on the market before? Whatever it is, anything they say. Now, you're not going to just repeat stupidly over and over and over. Gee, I don't know. I haven't seen your house yet. Let's get that. You say, I'm not sure. I really need to take a look at your house, know what your property's got going for it. When would be a good time for us to get together? Would tomorrow night at 6 o'clock be good, or would you like to, Thursday at 2? Silence. Let them think about it. Let the ball be in their court. This is a time for silence. We had other questions last week, 2 weeks ago, where you don't want silence in between. This is a silence moment. Ask them the question, shut up. Let them, make them blink first, kind of a thing. So 6 o'clock tonight good for you? I can stop by, probably take us 15, 20 minutes. Of course, in your mind, you're saying 15, 20 minutes. That's to talk with them, but be prepared for what if they end up wanting to list with you? What if they like you and they're tired of doing this on their own and you convince them? This might be an hour and a half appointment, right? So be prepared for that yourself, but have that, in their mind of, let me just stop by, take a look at your house, 10, 15, 20 minutes, take a look at your house and see what you got going on and give you some advice, and I can leave you be if you like. I'm not promising them I'll leave in 15 minutes because I may not. All right. Self-dealing. All right, simple tip. If you're going to buy property for yourself, don't take a commission. So just dealt with this with a real estate agent. So One of our members called me up and said, hey, Jim, I'm trying to do this. I'm buying the property. So in his case, he was helping his son purchase a home. So he wanted to not take the commission to have that renegotiated off of the price of the home. So they negotiated the whole thing. I'll make up numbers, $400,000 home, $10,000 commission. He said, I don't want the $10,000 commission. Let's make the purchase price $390 instead so that the $10,000 commission is not paid. Well, the seller, I don't know if it was the seller or the agent. Let me be clear. So the listing agent was saying that the seller didn't want to do that the seller didn't want to sell their home for less money and make the neighborhood look like it was selling for too low of a price. You know, I don't know what seller really cares about that in the long term. A seller is moving away. They're going to be gone. They're not going to have to worry about that. I don't know why the seller would have an issue with it. I would argue it was probably the listing agent thinking maybe they're going to get a smaller commission. That can be worked out. If the price comes down to $390, then make it $391. You know, there's ways to make it work out so that the listing agent still doesn't take a hit. And there wouldn't be much of a hit to begin with. But try to work this in is my argument for you. Think about it when you're negotiating for buying a property for yourself so that you're not taking this commission and then paying income taxes on the commission, you know, 33%, there's $3,000, right? So think about that. Be very careful buying. Did I skip anything here? Taxes on the income, said reduce the price. Okay, very good. Simple tip. Be very careful about buying one of your own listings. In fact, you cannot do it. It's illegal for you to purchase one of your own listings. Yes, you may not purchase one of your own listings. So if you have a listing, and let's be honest, you're the agent, you know a lot about the client's already confided in you how much they want to sell the property for, what their low end is. What if they say, you know what, I really just want to get rid of it. If somebody would give me $150,000 for it, I'd be happy, I'd walk away. And you go, wow, I would buy this thing for $150,000, right? Because you're there, you get the best input, the first crack at a lot of the best deals, right? You can't buy your own listing. Now, if that's the situation, you haven't taken the listing yet, you're in a better position. Now you would say to the seller, well, hey, hang on a second here. I might be interested in buying it for $150,000, but here's what we need to do, and then we'll get back to that. So if it is one of your listings and now you decide, you know what, I do want to buy this property, you need to cancel that listing, have the conversation with your seller. You know what, I'm interested in buying this. At the $150,000 price that you said you'd take it for, I'd like to buy it. Would you work with me and sell it to me? And if they say, well, yeah, you know, I'd sell it to you, that'd be fine. Great, I need to cancel this listing with you. If you want another agent to represent you, that's fine. We can get you another agent from our office who's unfamiliar, can help you negotiate, do whatever else. Or if you're fine with doing this on your own, that's an option for you too. And then of course, get notice of no agency and have them sign that form so that you can cancel the agreement, get a notice of no agency and go forward. This gets a little complicated, but it's important for you to know. You cannot buy your own listing. It's illegal for you to do so. And for good reason. I firmly support that that's illegal. I like most laws. All right, we good there? Stand in front of a judge. So stand in front of the judge. How can you honestly say, Your Honor, I got them the most money possible when I bought their home, right? It doesn't work that way. You can't be getting yourself the best deal while you're getting them the best deal. It's like the dual agent situation. Your Honor, I negotiate fairly for both parties. No, no, no. You back yourself out of negotiating in dual agency because you can't get both of your clients the best deal. You have to let them decide with the information you provide. They make their own decisions, right? Good. You know that. All right, we're wrapping up here. I think it's my last slide. Maybe it's two. Investment property. The best way to make money in real estate isn't helping others buy and sell it. It's a great way to make money, by the way. Being a real estate agent is a great living. I enjoyed it very much in my years. I love what I do now as well, helping real estate agents. But the best way is really to own property. My wife and I own rental property. It's good. You should be buying rental property, investment property for multiple reasons. Consider owning it. You should be owning it. So flipping it, we have flipped owned properties as well. I'm not comfortable flipping property. It's not good. I had more concerns with it than that. So we invest, we are landlords, we have tenants, and we self-manage most of that, have some assistance a little bit here and there. I've got contractors that I call, so middle of the night, you know, something goes wrong and the furnace doesn't go out, I call my guy, Jason, I need you to come over, and Jason takes care of me. I've got a plumber, I got the guys, I say guys, of course I mean people. So it's not for everyone, and getting started can be the hardest part, so that's true. The first one that you buy is always the toughest one. For a couple of reasons. One, coming up with the money is always a question and difficult. But more importantly, the bank becomes a problem, not a problem, a challenge, in that a bank hasn't seen that you've done this before. So once we had our first property and their second property, the third, fourth, whatever, were easier because the bank said, oh, they do this for a living. They know what they're doing. They know the numbers. They know how to work with tenants. They get this. They will give them the loan. So it's a lot easier to get those further deals than those first few deals. So last piece here, as an agent, you will see the deals, buy one or more. Absolutely, find those good deals and buy them. Yes, it is tough to get the first property. That's always the hardest one. For me, I lived in a townhouse. When I went to move out of that townhouse, I actually moved to a smaller property, a condo, and I had to explain to the bank what I was doing because they couldn't believe I was going to move to a smaller one than I was living in. But I moved from where I was at, the townhome, I moved to a condo and rented out the townhouse. So that's what worked for me. Then, of course, 2 years later, I met my wife. We were getting married. So we moved out of the condo. We bought a house. I rented that one out. So now we have two. When we moved out of this one, we did sell that one. It's the only property I've ever sold. So anyhow, become owners. That's it. That's what I've got for you. I'm watching the chat box here, and I don't see any questions. I am going to turn the recording off. I can find the button again.